Welcome to Return to Yahweh Ministries. I am Theresa Lanette. A very, very warm welcome to you, family. We are here today to continue our journey in learning our Hebrew identity. The Lord wants us to know who we are. The time is now. He says, my people have been hidden long enough, and I want them to know who they are, and I want the world to know who they are. So we're going to continue this journey. In the last teaching, we traced our origin from Noah all the way to Abram. We learned that Noah and his family were in the ark and were saved from the worldwide flood that was sent by Yahweh as judgment for the sinfulness of that generation. So at that time, there was a great reset that happened on earth. Genesis 7:21 through 22 states that every living thing on earth died. Every man and woman, every bird, and every kind of animal. After the flood, there were only 8 people who came out of the ark. Noah and his wife and his 3 sons. So Shem and his wife, Japheth and his wife, and Ham and his wife. The Lord commanded them to replenish the earth with their seed. Genesis 9:1 states, Yahweh blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, have many children, fill the earth with your people. So all the people that are on earth were from the 3 sons of Noah, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. We learned that the lineage of the chosen nation of Israel comes through the line of Shem. So we reviewed the lineage of Shem, our great ancestor and father. In Genesis 9:27, part B, it says, may Yahweh live in Shem's tents, which is a direct foreshadowing of Yah's intention to bless the descendants of Shem and make a covenant with them in future times, which we will learn of in today's episode. We will begin by reviewing the history of Terah's family. Genesis 11:27 through 32 says, this is the history of Terah's family. Terah was the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran was the father of Lot. Haran died in his hometown, Ur of Babylonia, while his father Terah was still alive. Abram and Nahor both married. Abram's wife was named Sarai, and Nahor's wife was named Milcah. Milcah was the daughter of Haran. Haran was the father of Milcah and Iscah. Verse 30, Sarai did not have any children because she was not able to have children. Terah took his family and left Ur of Babylonia. They planned to travel to Canaan. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, Abram's wife. They traveled to the city of Haran and decided to stay there. Terah lived to be 205 years old. He died in Haran. So we have made it to the point that Abram is on the scene with his family. Abram is very important because he is the one Yahweh has chosen to make this great covenant with. Okay? So let's go to Genesis 12:1 through 9 to learn about the call of Abram. Genesis 1 says, the Lord said to Abram, leave your country and your people. Leave your father's family and go to the country that I will show you. I will build a great nation from you. I will bless you and make your name famous. People will use your name to bless other people. I will bless those that bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. I will use you to bless all the people on earth. That's a very big statement there, guys, to say that I'm going to use you. The Lord is telling Abram, I'm going to use you to bless all the people on earth. The Lord gave me a great revelation concerning that. I will not address it today, but we will come back to it in a future teaching. Verse 4, so Abram left Haran just like the Lord said, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the slaves and all the other things he had gotten in Haran. Then he and his group moved to the land of Canaan. Abram traveled through the land as far as the town of Shechem, and then to the big tree at Moreh. The Canaanites were living in the land at that time. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your descendants. Abraham built an altar to honor the Lord who appeared to him there. Then he left that place and traveled to the mountains east of Bethel. He set up his tent there. Bethel was to the west and Ai was to the east. Abram built another altar at that place to honor the Lord. He worshiped the Lord there. Then he moved on toward Negev, stopping for a time at several places on the way. We're now at Genesis 13, 14 through 16. After Lot left, the Lord said to Abram, look around you. Look north, south, east, and west. All this land that you see I will give to you and your people who live after you. This will be your land forever. I will make your people so many that they will be like the dust of the earth. If people could count all the particles of dust on earth, they could count your people. Genesis 15, 1 through 21. We're continuing. The Lord is making an agreement with Abram. Verse 1. After all these things happened, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Yahweh said, Abram, don't be afraid. I will defend you and give you a great reward. But Abram said, Lord, there is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can give me that will make me happy, because I have no son. My slave Eleazar from Damascus will get everything I own after I die. Abram said, you have given me no son, so a slave born in my house will get everything I have. Then the Lord spoke to Abram and said, that slave will not be the one to get what you have. You will have a son who will get everything you own. Then Yah led Abram outside and said, look at the sky. See the many stars. There are so many you cannot count them. Your family will be like that. Abram believed the Lord, and because of his faith, the Lord accepted him as one who has done what is right. He said to Abram, I am the Lord who led you from Ur of Babylonia. I did this so that I could give you this land. You will own this land. But Abram said, Lord Yah, how can I be sure that I will get this land? Yah said to Abram, we will make an agreement. Bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old goat, a 3-year-old ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. Abram brought all these things to Yahweh. Abram killed these animals and cut each of them into 2 pieces. Then he laid each half across from the other half. He did not cut the birds into 2 pieces. Later, large birds flew down to eat the animals, but Abram chased them away. Verse 12. The sun began to go down, and Abram got very sleepy. While he was asleep, a very terrible darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to Abram, you should know this. Your descendants will live in a country that is not their own. They will be strangers there. The people there will make them slaves and be cruel to them for 400 years. But then I will punish the nation that made them slaves. Your people will leave that land, and they will take many good things with them. You yourself will live to be very old. You will die in peace and will be buried with your family. After 4 generations, your people will come to this land again and defeat the Amorites. That will happen in the future because the Amorites are not yet guilty enough to lose their land. After the sun went down, it got very dark. The dead animals were still on the ground, each animal cut into 2 pieces. Then a smoking fire pit and a flaming torch passed between the halves of the dead animals. So on that day, the Lord made a promise and an agreement with Abram. He said, I will give this land to your descendants. I will give them a land between the river of Egypt and the great river Euphrates. This is the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. So we are here now. We see where the Lord is making this promise and this great covenant with Abram. He's even telling Abram of what's going to happen to his descendants in the future. He told him that his descendants would be in a land that's strange to them. They would be slaves there. The people would be cruel to them for 400 years. We will visit this in another teaching. This is, believe it or not, this is talking about the slavery, the chattel slavery that happened here in America for 400 years. Okay, there is going to come a time that Abraham's descendants are also going to be slaves in Egypt. They will be in Egypt for 430 years, but they will not be slaves the entire time they are there. That will come up in another teaching also. But where we want to look at today is simply we're tracing our Hebrew identity, and we're finding out that we are with Abram, and Abram is so important to this teaching. We're going to continue on talking about the life of Abram. We're just going to do a short segue here, and that's simply because Abraham is going to have a child before he has the child of promise. And that child is going to be had with Hagar. If you want to read about that, I'm not going to go through the whole teaching because our main focus is tracing our Hebrew identity. However, this child is important in history. We're just not going to go deep into the teaching. But for those who want to have a deep look, you can go to Genesis chapter 16, and it will tell you all about Hagar, the woman who is going to have a child for Abraham, who that child's name is Ishmael. But as for this teaching, we're going to go ahead and go to Genesis 17. And we're going to talk about more proof of the agreement that the Lord is making with Abram. So let's go straight to Genesis 17. And it says, when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him. He said, I am Yah, all-powerful. Obey me and live the right way. If you do this, I will prepare an agreement between us. So we see the Lord is still making an agreement with Abram. And he said, I will promise to make your people a great nation. That is so important right there. In Genesis 17, the Lord said, I will promise to make your people a great nation. Then Abram bowed down before the Lord. I'm in verse 3 now. Then Abram bowed down before the Lord. And Yah said to him, this is my part of our agreement. I will make you the father of many nations. I will change your name from Abram to Abraham, because I am making you the father of many nations. So the Lord is really enforcing this covenant, not so much so that he's changing Abram's name from Abram, which means exalted one or father, to Abraham, which means father of many nations. In verse 6, he says, I will give you many descendants. New nations and kings will come from you. And I will prepare an agreement between me and you. This agreement will also be for all your descendants. It will continue forever. I will be your Yah and the Yah of all your descendants. And I will give this land to you and to all your descendants. I will give you the land you are traveling through, the land of Canaan. I will give you this land forever, and I will be your God, or as I like to say, I will be your Yah. Then Yah said to Abraham, now this is your part of the agreement. You and all your descendants will obey my agreement. This is my agreement that all of you must obey. This is the agreement between me and you and all your descendants. Every male must be circumcised. Verse 11, you will cut the skin to show that you follow the agreement between me and you. When the baby boy is 8 days old, you will circumcise him. Every boy born among your people and every boy who is a slave of your people must be circumcised. So every baby boy in your nation will be circumcised. Every boy who is born from your family or bought as a slave will be circumcised. Abraham, this is the agreement between you and me. Any male who is not circumcised will be cut off from his people because he has broken my agreement. So we see here the Lord has made this mighty agreement with Abraham, and that agreement forever is circumcision. So the people of Abraham must be circumcised to hold that agreement. Now we're going to move on from Abram, this agreement, and we're coming to this promised child that the Lord has promised. Okay? Yah said to Abram, I'm in verse 15 of Genesis 17. And Yahweh said to Abraham, I will give Sarai, your wife, a new name. Her name will no longer be Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her. I will give her a son, and you will be the father. She will be the mother of many new nations. Kings of nations will come from her. Abraham bowed his face to the ground to show he respected Yahweh. But he laughed and said to himself, I am 100 years old. I cannot have a son. And Sarah is 90 years old. She cannot have a child. Then Abraham said to Yahweh, I hope Ishmael will live and serve you. Yahweh said, no, I said that your wife Sarah will have a son. You will name him Isaac. I will make my agreement with him that will continue forever with all his descendants. So we see here now that the Lord is transferring that same blessing over to Isaac, saying that he's going to continue that agreement with Isaac. Isaac is the son of promise. So we're in verse 20. You mentioned Ishmael, and I heard you. I will bless him, and he will have many children. He will be the father of 12 great leaders. His family will become a great nation. But I will make my agreement with Isaac, the son who Sarah will have. He will be born at this time, the same time next year. And Yahweh finished talking with Abraham. Yahweh went up into heaven. Then Abraham gathered together Ishmael and all the slaves born in his house. He also gathered all the slaves he had bought. Every man and boy in Abraham's house was gathered together, and they were all circumcised. Abraham circumcised them that day, just as Yahweh had told him to do. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised. Abraham and his son were circumcised on the same day. Also, on that day, all the men in Abraham's house were circumcised. All the slaves born in his house and all the slaves he had brought were circumcised. So we see here that Abraham is following the instructions of the Lord immediately and had all of his household circumcised, beginning the great covenant, following the great covenant that Yahweh made with him. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 18, and we're going to start at verse 1. Later, the Lord again appeared to Abraham near the oak trees of Mamre It was the hottest part of the day, and Abraham was sitting at the door of his tent. He looked up and saw 3 men standing in front of him. When he saw the men, he ran to them and bowed before them. Abraham said, "Sirs, please stay a while with me, your servant. I will bring some water to wash your feet. You can rest under the trees. I will get some food for you, and you can eat as much as you want. Then you can continue on your journey." The 3 men said, "Do as you wish." Abram hurried to the tent. He said to Sarah, "Quickly prepare enough flour of 3 loaves of bread." Then Abraham ran to his cattle. He took the best young calf and gave it to his servant there. He told the servant to quickly kill the calf and prepare it for food. Abraham brought the meat and some milk and cheese and sat them down in front of the 3 men. Then he stood near the men, ready to serve them, while they sat under the tree and ate. Then the men said to Abraham, "Where is your wife Sarah?" Abraham said, "She is there in the tent." Then one of them said, "I will come again in the spring. At that time your wife Sarah will have a son." Sarah was listening in the tent and heard these things. Abraham and Sarah were very old. Sarah was past the right age for women to have children. So she laughed to herself and said, "I am old, and my husband is old. I am too old to have a baby." Then the Lord said to Abraham, Sarah laughed and said she was too old to have a baby. "But is anything too hard for the Lord? I will come again in the spring, just as I said I would, and your wife Sarah will have a son." Sarah said, "I didn't laugh." She said this because she was afraid. Then the Lord said, "No, I know that is not true. You did laugh." Then the men got up to leave. They looked toward Sodom and began walking in that direction. Abraham walked with them to send them on their way. So we see here that once again the Lord is promising Abraham and Sarah this son who is the son of promise, Isaac. We're going to go on to verse 17. The Lord said to himself, "Should I tell Abraham what I'm going to do now? Abraham will become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations on earth will be blessed because of him." There it is again. The Lord is saying because of Abraham, all the nations on the earth will be blessed. So this Abraham is somebody important. This Abraham is receiving such a great promise and covenant for his life, for the Lord to say all the nations on earth will be blessed because of him. We're going to discuss that into a later teaching. And we're at verse 19. "I have made a special agreement with him. I did this so that he would command his children and his descendants to live the way the Lord wants them to live. I did this so that they would live right and be fair. Then I, the Lord, can give him what I promised." Then the Lord said, "I have heard many times that the people of Sodom and Gomorrah are very evil. I will go and see if they are as bad as I have heard. Then I will know for sure." So we will stop right here in the teaching on today, and we will continue on at the next teaching talking more about Abraham and the son of promise, Isaac. We will get into the birth of Isaac, and we're going to hopefully on the next teaching get all the way to the 12 patriarchs. So family, we learned that our father, Yahweh, told Abraham, "Obey me and live the right way, and I will make an agreement between us." The Lord promised to make Abram's people a great nation. Abram agreed and bowed down before the Lord. So Yahweh changed his name from Abram to Abraham, because he would be the father of many nations. And Yah would give him many descendants, and new nations and kings would come from him. We also learned that Yahweh made an everlasting covenant of circumcision with Abraham and his descendants. Family, This can be a good identifier of true Israel today, because much of true Israel is still obeying this covenant all over the world, and even those who are yet in the land of their captivity, all without being taught that this is the commandment in the agreement the Lord made with Abraham. Family, as we have learned, our father Abraham agreed to live righteously and was blessed. We too must choose to live a righteous life, so we can also be blessed by Yahweh. Finally, we learned that the Lord also changed Sarai's name to Sarah, because she too would be the mother of many nations, and kings of nations would come from her. The Lord promised Abram and Sarah a child of their own, and this child would be the inheritor of the covenant blessing. Family, Yahweh is faithful to do all he has promised to do for you. Be encouraged and seek him. He is waiting to spend time with you and comfort you. Thank you for listening. Please join me for part 3, where we will pick up with the life of Isaac and learn of the promise and covenant Yahweh continued with his seed. We will take our time and keep it simple on a journey to learning our true Hebrew identity. Yahweh has said that his children have been hidden long enough, and the wait is over. Yahweh is concerned about the condition of his people scattered around the world in all nations. He wants you to know that he has not replaced you with a false nation. He loves you and he is calling you. True Israel, you will know who you are by the yearning and pulling Yahweh has placed in your heart. You will have a knowing, and you will learn who you are here at Return to Yahweh Ministries. I am Theresa Lanette. May Yahweh bless you and keep you, and may his eternal peace be with you always. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so you can be notified when I post another video. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Once again, thank you for listening. Until next time, shalom, shalom.